Title Match Pro Wrestling, released in 1987 by Absolute Entertainment for the Atari 2600 video computer system, allows players to choose from one of 4 made-up wrestlers in either singles or tag team action. The goal of the game is to beat your opponent enough to score the winning pinfall. Score 2 falls out of 3 and you win the match. You could either partake in a singles or tag team match against a computer or a second player, and that's pretty much the gist of it. A series of exhibition matches with no rhyme or reason, no championships to win or anything of the sort, and honestly, no real biggie. Control is tricky here, as you'd expect a wrestling game on Atari 2600 to be. In order to pull off wrestling holds, you have to push the button down first, and then move the joystick in the appropriate direction to pull off a move. It's a bit tricky to pull off at first because you're constantly moving about to avoid contact with your opponent, who is more than capable of executing pain without worrying about whether they're in joystick mode or button mode or muscle mode or whatever. A simple grapple system could have worked better here, but if you could somehow pull off some of these moves, you can execute slams, airplane spins, carry your opponent over your head, and even pull off top rope moves. So there's a bit of wrestling here, however simplistic it may be. Learning to pull these moves off might make matches more interesting. The thing is though, matches usually don't last that long anyway. About a minute or so is the longest match I've had in Title Match Pro Wrestling, which is a godsend considering how intense the AI is here. This is one of those games that's best played with 2 players, and even then, the thrill won't last long because the matches generally don't. And more often than not, they'll usually comprise punch and kick affairs more than anything, because those are the moves that are easiest to pull off. Given the hardware at work here, Title Match Pro Wrestling looks fairly decent, bearing a simple presentation of the ring with a few audience members. While the wrestlers more or less share the same body type but with different colors, they look alright. You can see the background through parts of their bodies. They seem to have that flat feeling when laying on their backs, but for the most part they look good, almost on par with the boxers from Real Sports Boxing, which was also released around that same time. Sounds fairly minimal. You have the audience cheering, slaps and ticks for impacts, and the jingle that plays at the start and conclusion of every wrestling match. Simple stuff, really. Not much to say there. Pulling off a wrestling game on the Atari 2600 is without question a difficult proposition, and to their credit, Absolute Entertainment did a commendable job of pulling it off with Title Match Pro Wrestling. I wouldn't go so far as to say they made a good wrestling game, but they gave it the old college try, and at the very least it looks the part. Ultimately, the 2 biggest hurdles here are the limited replay value and the control scheme. Simply put, matches tend to be too short for their own good, and the controls feels overly complicated when something simpler probably would have worked best. As a simple 2-player game where you and a buddy just want to mess around with the gameplay, it fares a bit better. But Title Match Pro Wrestling is, simply put, not that good of a wrestling game, especially in 1987.